Good evening and welcome to Views with Joyce Waddell. I want to thank you for joining us this evening. We have a very interesting program for you. We're going to be talking with Maurice Johnson. Maurice Johnson does a program on the Civil War, and that's what this program is going to be about. He has a large collection and a wonderful story about the history of the Civil War. So we're going to be talking with him as he shares and educates us about some things that happened during that time. He's the only one in Charlotte with this complete collection related to the Civil War. Maurice, welcome.
Thank you.
Maurice, you're wearing a uniform now, aren't you?
Yes.
And this uniform is a Civil War uniform.
It's a Civil War uniform. It's 100% wool. The dark blue represents the cover. The light blue is the pants that we wear, and that means volunteer.
Oh, okay.
In 1863, we was invited back into the military, and we came in 185,000 strong to fight in the Civil War.
185,000 black people.
185,000 soldiers and women fought during the Civil War to end it.
And you ended it then?
We ended it.
185, so how many were there before you came?
See, it worked out like this.
You were with Robert E. Lee?
No.
Ulysses Grant?
I was with Ulysses. I'm a Union soldier, not a Confederate soldier. We took the point of defeating the Confederate Army with Robert E. Lee and Johnstone. But before that, let's go back the first 100 years of America.
Slavery?
No.
Before then?
America started in 1770. The first man to die was a black man. His name was Christus Alex.
I remember reading about him.
Okay. It was over 5,000 black soldiers who fought with George Washington to end the Revolutionary War.
In 1770.
It started in 1767. It ended in 1783.
Well, they signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776.
That's the declaration they took to King George, and King George tore it up. And he sent an army over here to put down the rebellion.
Oh, okay. Now, so you this is not a southern uniform. This is a northern uniform.
This is the northern uniform. We got the blue.
And the South got the gray.
The South got the gray.
Oh.
Because at the time
so you were Ulysses S. Grant.
I was with Ulysses S. Grant. I was with Sherman. I was with Burnside, and the rest of the generals that fought in the Civil War.
Okay, so y'all made them surrender at Appomattox, Virginia.
Grant surrendered at Appomattox.
He surrendered.
Correct.
Because you had surrounded him.
Well, Grant surrendered the Northern Army of Virginia at Appomattox in 1865. Later, Johnstone surrendered in Durham, North Carolina, to Sherman, and that ended the Civil War.
A lot of people got it confused because they think that it ended in
when Lee surrendered.
Yeah,
he surrendered the Northern Army.
It was two armies.
It was two armies. He surrendered the Northern Army, and Johnstone had the Southern Army, and Sherman selected his surrender, and the war was over.
Okay, and the Civil War was over.
The Civil War was over.
And everybody went home.
Well, to a degree, everybody went home.
Okay, now you have some things that we're going to talk about here, and we're going to take a look at our first picture right here.
The first is abolitionists, and why are we going to remember? Why are we going to remember the abolitionists? It's important to us to remember the men and women who put their lives on the line for total strangers and was not getting paid. If they found out that you was an abolitionist at that particular time, they would burn down your house and to make sure you was in it. We have people from that period, Frederick Douglass, the Northern Star. We had the Liberator newspapers, abolitionist newspapers, talking about bringing an end to slavery. In 1849, Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery, and she became free. The thing that we have to understand about Harriet, she escaped to freedom in 1849. The next year, they passed the Fugitive Slave Act. That was in 1850. That's when Harriet got busy freeing slaves. She would not free a family of 4 or 5. She would go down south and free 16 and 17 people at a time. And
where would she take them once you freed them?
Once she'd take them north. Once you hit Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Michigan, and cross over the river into Canada.
Oh, she was taking them all the way to Canada.
No, she was a part of the Underground Railroad.
I remember her.
Once she gets them to a safe house up north, someone else will handle the slaves from that point on. But they was free people. But that was up until 1850 when they passed the Fugitive Slave Act.
And that meant if they caught anybody with a slave, they brought them back to the South, didn't they?
If you escaped from slavery, and you was lucky enough to get through the lines and make it, and let's say you was in Ohio, they would grab you and bring you back.
Even though you were in the North?
Even though you was in the North. That was the Fugitive Slave Act. But that's when Harriet got busy, and she was freeing 16, 17 people at a time. The reward for Harriet, and before it was over, got to $40,000, and at that time, that wasn't a fortune.
Somebody put a hit out on her?
The slave owners, first it started around 5, it went to 20, then it went to 30, and eventually it got to $40,000 for her capture. Bulletin boards up on walls looking for Harriet Tubman.
Did they ever find her?
No, they didn't find her. In fact, when the Civil War started, she became a spy. She also helped the Union Army free more slaves. But that was the abolitionist period. The last abolitionist to show up and everybody talk about was John Brown. His idea was to raid Harper's Ferry.
Was he black?
He was white.
Okay, some people think he was black.
No, John Brown was white.
John Brown body is a molding in the clay.
Well, the
song goes?
Is a playoff on that song. But John Brown figured that if he attacked Harper's Ferry, he could raise enough ammunition and guns, and the slaves would rally to him and free themselves. But it didn't happen.
Well, he didn't think his plan well enough. He didn't think his plan well enough. And what happened then? What happened to a lot of innocent people at that time?
Well, it was only you free people or slaves. We had free men at that particular time, but the ones that was caught with John Brown was hung along with John Brown.
And he was white.
Mm-hmm. But they was hanging people irregardless. If you escaped from slavery and they caught you more than twice, either you end up in prison or end up in the end of a rope.
And they paid $1,000 for you, and going to turn around and hang a slave that they paid $1,000 for, they still would do it?
If they knew that you was not going to be a slave. The whole idea behind slavery is that you accept it.
Okay, we have another picture here about the Civil War, and that we're going to talk.
This is the period of the Civil War, and
Abraham Lincoln is at the top.
We fought the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and after the War of 1812, we was kicked out of the Army and the Navy.
The black people, you mean?
The black soldiers and black sailors was kicked out.
Why was that?
Because they didn't want you to have the knowledge of how to get free. The sailors could tell them, if you escape down to Florida, you can sail over to Jamaica, you'll be free. They say, well, we got to stop this because we have more people escaping from slavery. And also they have guns. So they passed laws that black men and what couldn't own no guns. And it wasn't until the Civil War started in 1861. Hundreds of brothers ran and said, "We want to join. We want to fight." I said, "No, we don't need you. This war will be over within 6 months." The war continued on for 2 years. Lincoln was looking for a victory in order to enlist the black men into the military because of the abolitionists urging him, saying, "You have to enlist the black man if you want to win this war." His victory came at Antietam. We called the battle Antietam. They called it Sharpsburg, Maryland. Over 23,000 men died in the 1 day of fighting.
In 1 day?
In 1 day.
Were they both the ones who died?
This was the first.
Were they Southerners or Northerners?
The combined total of 12,000 on both sides. 1 day of fighting, they submitted. This was the first time that Lee decided to invade the North. And
Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee decided to invade the North at Sharpsburg, Maryland. We called it Antietam. We stopped him at Antietam. So theoretically, we won the battle. The North won the battle.
But Robert E. Lee didn't have the kind of men. He didn't have the manpower that.
Robert E. Lee had an excellent army. He had a well-trained army and a well-disciplined army. Now, don't take nothing away from them. They was well-trained. They was well-disciplined. Them farm boys could shoot. And once they took up the idea that they was going to fight for freedom, they did. There was no giving up on their part. They did not just give up, throw their guns down, and surrender. That's why at Sharpsburg, Maryland, we lost so many men, because they was committed. That was the first time he invaded the North. But in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation. That was authorizing the use of black soldiers back into the military. We came in 185,000 strong in the Army and 50,000 in the Navy.
That was almost like a miracle, wasn't it?
No, we wanted to fight.
Because you wanted freedom.
We wanted freedom. And George Washington freed the men who fought for him. They was called freemen. Andrew Jackson in the War of 1812 freed the men who fought with him.
The black soldiers?
The black soldiers. And they was freemen.
Oh, where did he take them? Did he take them north?
No, they was down in the South. And then the South came up with laws that if you was a freeman, you still had to pay taxes to stay down in the South as a free man.
To force them out of the South?
To force them out of the South.
And they forced them out?
Some stayed because of their families and stuff, and some was forced out.
Okay, so and that's what we have in this picture right here in the one.
That's what we have right here.
With the Civil War. Okay, yeah, with the Civil War right here with
the soldiers in the Civil War and during that period of time until the end of the Civil War.
Okay, and how did well, that's interesting. So Abraham Lincoln let them come back.
Abraham Lincoln authorized the use of black soldiers into the military. We came in 185,000 strong. The senators from Michigan and Ohio was pressing Abraham Lincoln. If these people, the Emancipation was a proclamation. It's just like what I'm trying to think of.
It's a paper, a
law.
law.
It's not a binding law. So they sat down and went through and came up with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
Who came up with it?
One of the senators that we contribute to the 13th Amendment was Jacob M. Howard. He was from Michigan. And they sat
That's
down.
Where you from?
That's where I'm from, Michigan.
From your state?
From my state. And, okay, now they are free. But are they free Americans? The 14th Amendment freed us as citizens of the United States. Simply stated, anyone born within the continent of the United States is an American citizen. So you have freedom and now you have citizenship. The next hurdle was, and this was in 1867. In 1870, said, do they have the right to vote? And the 15th Amendment to the Constitution gave us the right to vote, period. The states came back after Reconstruction and passed laws that was illegal, and it took over 100 years to knock them down. But we had actually won the right to vote in 1870. So if you look at the first 100 years, from 1770 to 1870, we have all the rights of an American citizen and the rights that we have fought and died for.
Okay, now you have something else that's interesting here. What kind of collection you call this?
This is a Civil War collection of Civil War rifles and pistols. When the war started...
Nothing's in that, is it? And isn't anything in it?
No, come on now. No, when the Civil War started, everybody was using one-shot muskets.
Can't shoot but one time?
Can't shoot but one time.
Oh, why was that?
Because these were the weapons of that period. This is an 1861 Springfield Eagle. It is a muzzle loader. And what I mean by muzzle loader, you put the bullet, the powder, the bullet, ram it down, put your cap on, and you're ready to fire.
Would that take too long?
No, it take a couple of minutes. A good rifleman can get off 3 shots.
And you're trying to shoot a human being with that?
Of course.
That was inhumane.
We was fighting a war. This is the way wars was fought. We were still using what they call Napoleonic tactics. And Napoleonic tactics was using smoothbore weapons, and you will march 1,000 men or 3,000 men toward one another. And whoever disciplined to get off the most shots, them was the ones to win the battle. When you was fighting those type of battles, you was looking directly at your enemy, and your enemy was looking at you. But that's the way wars was fought at that time.
That was a cruel way to fight a war, wasn't it?
It was the only way that they was used to fight at that particular time. War is cruel, period. The reason that we go to war, that's what is important.
Oh, okay. So you have this collection.
This is the collection. This is a Henry repeating rifle. It fires 13 rounds. When the war started in 1861, they had the Henry repeating rifle.
I'm gonna move just a bit. Now that we've talked about it, so we can get a better view of this. Oh, there it is. No, don't. That's good, so you can see it right there.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay. What I want it for. But so you have a collection here of 3.
The next one is a Spencer. In 1863, Spencer himself went to the White House and demonstrated the effectiveness of the Spencer rifle. It fires 7 times. Abraham Lincoln authorized the use of Spencer rifles for the military. This is a carbine, and they have a carbine and a rifle. The next one is a 1859 Sharps, black powder, fires 1 shot, but it's the most accurate weapon on the board out of all 3.
What interests you in guns?
Not actually in guns. I was with the 102nd, and Ross Fowler, he was a sergeant in the 102nd, and we would go out to...
Is the 102nd a cavalry?
No, this is infantry.
Okay.
This is an infantry hat. The 102nd tells you what unit you belong to. The bugle is the infantry call, and the B is the company you're in. And there's 10 companies to every regiment. and we was with the 102nd Company B. That's over 100 men within that company. But each company would have at least 100 men in it, and the regiment would have 1,000.
Okay. And the regiment would have 1,000.
A regiment would have 1,000.
But you didn't wear that hat in the military.
This is the hat that we wore when we was in the Civil War.
Okay. You were fighting for the North. You were fighting us then.
No, we was fighting for freedom. Period. The end of slavery.
You weren't fighting us, were you?
Fighting who? Fighting
The Southerners.
the Southerners. As soon as the North Army went through the South, that's when the whole Southern economics fell apart.
And took 100 years to
No, after Reconstruction, we came out of the slavery and Reconstruction with nothing. They didn't give us 40 acres and a mule, and they barely gave us any money. Now we're just like anybody else. You let 4 million people loose with no education, and now they have to defend for themselves because they're no longer living on a plantation. But when the Northern Army came through, thousands of Southerners fled to the northern side.
They got out, didn't they?
They got out.
And went north.
Then not all of them. The biggest of them stayed in the South.
Why was that? They
Because
couldn't move.
They knew they can get jobs, they can go to work, sharecropping, because they was farmers.
And that's what they had been accustomed to doing.
That's what they had been accustomed to doing.
And they were farmers, so they could get a farm labor, and so they stayed. But you know, something happened with the Freedom Riders in the 60s.
Well, this is after the Civil War.
When they started taking them north again.
We could bring that up
Another time.
Another time.
Now you have this is the water, right?
No. This is my ammo pouch.
Your what?
Ammo.
What's in it?
Ammunition.
Oh, okay. So they had to you had to carry that in addition to your rifle. All of that. When you go out and do talks, do you have to?
No, I don't. I'm not a reenactor anymore.
You used to be.
Yes. Now I'm just living history.
Reenaction was busy, wasn't it?
No, you dress up in uniform, you go out and you shoot at one another, don't nobody get hurt, and you explain what battles that we had and what battles that we fought. The South like to talk about the battles that they won, and the North like to talk about the battles that they won.
Who won the most battles?
We won the war. It wasn't the idea about winning the battles. The idea was winning the war.
So when the war was over, what Abraham Lincoln reneged about the 40?
No. Abraham Lincoln did not renege.
What happened to the 40 acres then?
Abraham Lincoln got a bullet in the back of his head for freeing the slaves that he did, and he was shot. In
the theater.
And the next president, and we was talking about the 40 acres and a mule, and it never came to fruition. They set up the Freedom Bank for the soldiers. The only thing was they didn't put enough money into the bank. So if you don't put enough money into the bank, and people keep drawing money out because they had to live, what happens to the bank?
All about it. I guess it goes with the money.
It goes with the money.
Now, what was the red scarf for?
I'm a non-commissioned officer. I wear around my waist a red sash. This is my ammo pouch. I carry a pistol and my bayonet.
All the time.
All the time. When we go into per se battle, this is what I'll be carrying, and my canteen.
And your red scarf.
And my red sash.
Now, when you were doing the reenactment,
put on everything I have now, and carry a trusty rifle.
Now, what was this for? Is that some money?
This is an eagle. This is the last time that they had eagle's breast on a soldier.
What's the eagle for? Is it money?
It's just the idea that this is what they put on the uniform. The eagle.
Is it gold?
No, it's brass. And the U.S. Frederick Douglass said once the man get an eagle on his chest, U.S. on his pouch, and bullets in his pocket, there's no one can deny him freedom.
That's what Frederick Douglass said.
That's what Frederick Douglass
Was he ever in the military?
His son was in the military. They was with the 54th Mass.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and you take the gun with you too, this rifle. If you take the rifle, you can't take both of them, can you?
No, I just bought to show the people the progression of the rifle.
Of how they advance.
How they advance from smooth bore to rifled muskets. Now we have cartridges.
This one is expensive. Look at that, all the metal on it.
No,
it's not expensive.
It's expensive now, but back then, well, if you said it cost $14 back then, it was expensive.
Oh, okay.
Because you was only making $1 a day.
As a soldier.
As a soldier. The average soldier got $13 a month. And to buy a rifle that's cost $13, hey, that's a whole month's pay. But living was a lot better to a degree because of the fact that wasn't nobody really making no money, and $13 or $14 was a lot of money at that
And you didn't have to buy this; they gave it to you, right?
The officers went out and bought them, and some state militias issued.
She's wrapping us up. And some statement, okay.
Militias issued the Henry repeating rifle.
You have an interesting audience. We've been talking with Maurice Johnson, and he shared with us the facts about the Civil War. We want to thank him for sharing his information, and thank him for being with us, and thank you for being with us too on Views with Joyce Waddell. Turn it again next week for another interesting program.